Hi there, I'm Linda and this is Sutton's Valley Permaculture. It's been for a little while now that I've been thinking about coming out to the garden and saving some of the seeds from the beautiful zinnia flowers. I've also got echinacea that's gone to seed and I should be able to gather some of those as well. In today's video, we're also going to have a look at some of the other plants in the gardens and discuss whether it's worthwhile saving their seeds. There's various colours of these zinnia plants in the garden, ranging from this lovely red one to orange and a multitude of different shades of pink. When I grew the seeds, I actually just planted a mixed packet of zinnias, so it wasn't colour specific, but I thought that I would like to choose what colours I grow in future. So today I'm going to be selecting the different colours and making a note and making sure that I've got them identified, so next when I grow some zinnias I can sort of select what colours I'd really like. Now I will have to be waiting for the red flowers to actually form some seeds. That plant got going a little bit later than most of my pink ones. As you can see here with this lovely pink variety, they're starting to dry off, and this flower head here is just about ready to give up its seeds. And you can see the seeds, they're just kind of that little shape at the base of the flower. Those green ones would need more drying off, but those ones are pretty good to go. So you can see them there. There's some darker seeds which are really dried off. These ones that have been in the middle of the flower are still quite green, so you'd have to make sure that they were all dried before sort of storing in an airtight container. What I'm going to do today is just take them off that old flower head and put them into a paper envelope. Pop them in there, and I'm not going to store them away in an airtight container, but I'll leave them out somewhere so that can flatten out and the seeds can dry out over the week before I store them. What's also important is to label the seed packet. I will be printing out photos of the different flower heads, so I've got an idea of colour. So I'll just call this a pink light, and I'm going to number them 1, so I know the photo that matches up with the packet. That one's just starting to get its seeds forming. And this one looks like it's had a bit of bird activity on the top. So yeah, you're probably better to wait a little bit longer, although maybe the lower ones could have some seeds. Probably best to wait till it's a lot more dry. So I'll just keep them there, but I'm not going to be popping the lid on it for about a week. Now there's 2 plants here. This one is a really beautiful pink, and this one's more a purpley pink. I really love this pink shade. I wouldn't know what to call it. And out of these flowers, I've only got one flower that's really dried off. So we'll just see how we're going for seeds. Now I've just pulled that out, and I don't know if you can see it there. It's got the arrowhead, and that looks fairly dry actually. So I'll be able to pinch out a few of those from that flower and store those away. Now the seed is just at the end of all of these petals, so that's the bit that you need for getting some beautiful pink flowers again for next season. So I'm going to be pulling out some more of these and see what we get. See, they definitely need a bit more drying off. You can see there's quite a bit of green there. But yeah, I'll pop those in the envelope and keep an eye on them over the week and see how they go. So I've kind of just ripped off the seeds and I'll pop them in here. I mean, I could be waiting a little bit longer till these flowers finish off, but I'm afraid that I'll forget or just not get round to doing it. Sometimes you pull them out and the seeds are stuck in there. I need 2 hands. Oh, all the seeds are just in there. So if the petals broke off, you can just kind of pull all those seeds off that drying flower head. And, well, that's more than I need, really. And I've just called that zinnia pink number 2. And I'll put its photo on the envelope. Over here, we've got another zinnia that is a different shade of pink. And these seeds are all dried up, so they're perfect to go in our little envelope and store. There's also another younger flower head here. I'll just see what I can grab out of that. Yeah, they're not as far along and definitely need some drying, but I'll be able to store those seeds also. Zinnia Pink 3. Now this zinnia is a really deep sort of pink. I'll still call it pink. And it does have one flower with the potential to give up some seeds. So we'll take a look at that one. Oh, see, that's all you're kind of looking for there. I hate to think of all the seeds I'm dropping and what flowers will be in this garden for next season. Mightn't have to grow any from seed. So yeah, plenty of seeds there to be able to store. Now to decide whether we've already saved flowers like these. This pink is very similar to the first one we saved, the light pink, but it's slightly darker. And it does have some old flower heads, so I'm going to save some seeds. Let's just get in here and see what we can grab. We'll call this one Zinnia 5. Now just around the corner from those two pinks is another pink that is kind of a slightly different shade. So definitely grab some of these ones as well. My aim one day is to have a huge row of just zinnias, so masses of different shades will just look beautiful, I think. Okay, quite a few of the dried out flower heads. So you can definitely tell the difference between the ones that are really ready to go. That's just fallen off that little, I don't know if that's a stamen or what, holding all the petals on. Oh, get off there, mate. You'll be in the packet. He's pretty. So they're ready for storage. I wouldn't even need to be drying those ones off. And that's the final pink, and that's number 6. Just at the end of one of my tomato beds, we've got the final colour of zinnia that I want to keep today, and it's a lovely orange colour. Now, this plant has been fairly squashed down by this exuberant blueberry tomato, but we do have some dried flower heads I spotted somewhere around here that we can save seed from. Ah, here it is. And like that last flower, this seed is all lovely and dry and ready to put away in its packet. Now I'm going to be printing off the image of each of these flowers for the seeds that I've saved, and hopefully the printed colour sort of represents what the flower is. At least it will kind of identify the slightly different shades amongst the flowers, and you kind of know what you're growing. this blueberry tomato. Well, lots of my other tomato plants are finishing off. This one is kind of just hitting its straps. It does ripen up a little bit later in the season. And look at all those beautiful little tomatoes. It's almost as pretty as the zinnia flowers. Now with all our zinnia seeds tucked away, we can get on to the beautiful echinacea. These echinacea flowers have been pretty spectacular in the garden this season, and I would hate to miss out on saving any of the echinacea seeds. Now, I should have been deadheading a lot of the flowers during the season to keep the plants growing. This plant here is an example of one that I did do, mostly because all the flowers had fallen over. So I'd be getting a whole lot more growth and some new flowers coming on it if I'd done that. But we are able to save some seeds, so that's a win. I'm going to take some seed from this plant here. It's got plenty of flower heads that are completely dried off. We've got the kind of blackish top and a brown stalk. It's not green, which means there's still some moisture in there. So I'm going to carefully select those flower heads that are really dry. So I'm just going to pull off the flower heads off a number of these stalks. They're very prickly. Maybe I should have... Ow! I'm going to come back with some secateurs and take the heads off these stalks. Armed with secateurs now, that's a lot easier. That one's a bit green actually. When the secateur snaps through it, you know that it's kind of dry enough, I think. Okay, prickly little things, these guys. After grabbing the seed heads, I'm just going to pop them in this container and pop the lid on and give these a really good shake. Now, it's a really dry day and we've had very dry conditions, so these are completely dry. If you've picked your echinacea flower heads and they weren't dry, dry them off for about a week in a paper bag. But you just give it a good shake. And then take your lid off. You can get rid of these now, back into the garden. And there's all our lovely echinacea seeds. Looks a bit like wood chips really. There's a few petals in there, but that's the little seed there, those ones. So that's what we're going to store away in our envelope. Now, something that I failed to write on my zinnia envelopes was the date, which is important. For example, echinacea seeds only really germinate well in the first 12 months after saving your seed. Now, storage of these seeds, I've heard people say just store them in a dry place, but I've also heard people say put them in a jar and store them in the refrigerator. So the jury's out, and I'll be doing some more research before I store my seeds. And now that I've saved the seeds from these echinacea, I might just come through and chop all of those flowers down and see if we can get this plant going again once we get some more rain. For the moment, I'm just going to store them in here, out of sunlight and in a sort of cool but dry place, just to let those zinnias dry out a little bit more. And I haven't sealed them, so I'll make sure they are dry before sort of tucking them away in an airtight container. Now, some other seeds I'd like to save today are seeds from this beautiful little tomato, which is actually a cross that I've grown for the first time this year. Now, there's no guarantee that by saving the seeds and growing them for next season, I'll get the exact same plant, but I'm going to give it a try because this beautiful little tomato ripened really early in the tomato season, and it's a really sweet, lovely little tomato, so I'd love to add that to my tomato beds for the future. So I'll take those inside, process the seeds, and get them dried and stored for next year. As we've seen there, tomatoes can cross-pollinate. So I've got tigerella here, which I'll leave, and I'm just going to grow some that I know are true. Down the end, I've got my lovely little orange tomato that I like to grow each year. And again, that could cross, but I've got some right at the end of that bed, which might be far enough away from other tomatoes to be an issue, so I might grab some of those. I think these tigerellas are just a bit close to a few other varieties to be sure that I'll get the same thing. Down this end of the garden bed, I've got some collapsed tomato plants, and who knows, maybe those flowers were more protected. And I'll just grab a couple of those for some seed saving. Now to the beautiful blueberry itself. These were seeds that I saved from last season, and these did grow true. I was originally gifted these seeds, so I'm going to save them and just try. And I think if you grow quite a number of plants, you might get exactly what you're hoping for. Someone gifted these beautiful seeds to me. If I collect a few seeds, I can also gift them to others. In a recent video, I picked lots of dried beans and made a couple of chili bean recipes, and I'll leave a link to that video. But I didn't save seeds for saving seeds' sake. So I'm going to grab some of the pods from the scarlet runner bean and some pods from the Ukrainian bean as well. The scarlet runner bean is said to be perennial. Now, the plant here is looking pretty dried out because we've had really hot, dry conditions of late. I think it's a really good idea just to save some of the seeds just in case the plant doesn't survive and survive hard frosts in winter. I think if you cut it right to the ground, then it's got a better chance of getting through winter, especially if you kind of mulch over the top of it. The Ukrainian bean is just one of the annual beans, and so it's good to have a good supply of those. Also on my to be saved list is the lazy housewife bean. And I'm trying to develop plants that grow really long beans. So I'm selecting pods that are quite long. There are shorter pods, but I'm going to leave those and harvest them for dried beans for storing in the pantry. And just collect these that are a bit longer. If you saw my chili bean video, I'm sure you've guessed which bean I'm going to save next, and that is the beautiful purple king beans. Really prolific producers. There's still some fresh ones coming on, but it's essentially all dried off. Now, sometimes I do a second round of beans. I haven't for the purple king, but I might actually plant some. We can often get a second crop during autumn here. I've done that with my lazy housewife, and those beans have grown to the top of the trellis and are nearly ready to flower. With beans, you're pretty right seed saving. You don't have to worry too much about cross-pollination, but be sure to grow similar looking beans apart from each other so you don't get mixed up with the different varieties when you come to harvest. Now to look at a few other plants in the garden. This one is a cucumber plant. There's a long green variety and also a Lebanese variety. Now, I'm not going to save seeds from those. The cucumber family cross-pollinate with the different varieties. So whatever seeds I save from those would not grow true. So I'm not going to bother. I do like the really long green variety, so I'm going to make sure I've got seeds to save that is that variety. If I wanted to save my own seeds for that, I would have to just grow those plants in the garden and not any other varieties. I do have Space Master in the garden as well, so 3 varieties, so it's just not worth saving the seeds. Another couple of plants that I'd love to have saved seeds from is this Black Beauty and the Cocozella zucchini. Now I did leave fruit to go to seed so that it would mature, and they are huge. But since doing a little bit more research in my seed saving book, if you want to save seeds from the cucurbit family, you do need to just grow one variety. So you can grow cucumbers and they don't cross with zucchinis. And zucchinis don't cross with those, but zucchinis, the different varieties cross together. So if I save seeds from these, they wouldn't go true. So again, that's a case where if you want to grow the zucchinis like they are, then make sure you get seeds that haven't been crossed. Although I'm very tempted just to save them anyway, make a note that they might be crossed and see what happens next year. Another plant in the cucurbit family that cross within each other is the squash plants, or the pumpkin as we call them here in Australia. They can cross with other pumpkins or squashes, not zucchinis, not cucumbers, but within that family of squash and pumpkins. So again, I'm growing about 3 or 4 different varieties this year. You do have to separate them by, half a kilometre or a kilometre if you want to grow true. So it's hard to reproduce the same pumpkin year after year. A friend of mine, Cathi from Little Gardens Big Dreams, sent me pumpkin seeds at the beginning of the season, which I have planted. You saw the first one, which is the Australian butter pumpkin, which is growing huge, and Cathi feels is growing true to seed. And she sent me some Jap seeds. Now, I'm pretty sure the pumpkin at the back here has grown true to what you'd expect from a Jap pumpkin, but down here it looks more like a butternut squash. So both of those are beautiful pumpkins, so it doesn't matter in this case that they didn't grow true to variety. I also got some Turk's turban seeds from Cathi. Now I've got a couple in the garden that are a really light orange colour, and a few others that are this bright, beautiful orange colour, but apparently Turk's turban can come in a range of colours. So maybe if you want to save some pumpkin seeds, get together with some friends and grow a different variety each and share the seeds. I won't be saving any of these seeds, even though they look like beautiful pumpkins, because you're just not sure what you're going to get next year. Well, that's all the seed saving I'm going to be doing at the moment. Hopefully I remember to grab the seeds from this beautiful red variety of zinnia. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.